Hello and welcome to the Go Narrative stream. I'm excited today to dig into the topic of business storytelling in a market downturn. Thanks for joining. Times like these, it's easy to cut back, right? We've all been here before. It's Groundhog Day. It's going to happen again, right? The markets are going to recover and then the markets are going to have problems again. So if that's the case, maybe we should think about things a little differently. Maybe we shouldn't get sucked into the same old narrative. Now, I'm not saying that in some cases, some businesses might legitimately struggle right now, but I'll tell you one example of businesses that can make any type of investment that they want to make in such a situation. And that's the corporations of the world. So we've got a spectrum between the businesses that are really going to struggle right now and the businesses that have got a lot of cash in the bank and can make those investments. So let's be objective about where we are and let's dig into what investing in a downturn looks like when it comes to your messaging and your communications. Now, I'm not the only person. I was actually chatting with a friend and colleague just yesterday about the fact that this is a drum that many of us are beating right now. Let's not freak out. Let's figure out how we can make the most of the time that we're in. Okay. Now, I'm not the only one to say this. Harvard Business Review, Craig Barrett, these are a couple of institutions and people that come to mind. The latter of which I remember presenting to an all hands at the turn of the millennia at Intel on why, despite the fact that it was just post-bubble burst crash, another one of those crashes, right? That there was this lack of customer spending and there's this general fear in the market and of course uncertainty and doubt. Against that backdrop, Craig Barrett told us that we were going to be building a new fab and that was a good idea. So Craig Barrett was CEO of Intel at the time, and he was referring to a fabrication facility, a chip factory. Here's another thought. Think about your own investments. Would you prefer to sell your stocks and shares when they're high or when they're low? You can only truly lose money in the stock market when you sell in a dip. Of course, that's something that many of us have learned, and some of us still have the opportunity to learn. If you're in the latter camp, please, now is not the time to be selling your investments. Of course, if you can sell when they're high, then you can make the profit, okay? So the reverse is true. When is a good time to invest in the market? It's a good idea to have some liquidity on hand so that you can put money into the market when it's down. Those corporations, those blue chip examples would be really great examples, okay? Looking at the performance of some of those companies today. Qualcomm, for example, they actually hit their quarterly expectations with Wall Street, but saw a 7%, over 7% dip in share price. But they've got great dividends. So even if you've got Qualcomm stock and it's down and you don't sell it, right, you might feel pretty bad about where it is today, but you can also get the benefit of those dividends. So that's right. Okay. Investing in a market downturn is a good idea. And that leads me to my favorite topic, and the topic of storytelling, of communications, of messaging in your business, right? That's also why investing in that is a good idea in a downturn. You heard me right there. So look, business opportunities are always out there, even in a down market. Investing in your story can strengthen your business and your customer relationships. A market downturn can actually leave customers cash strapped. No surprises there, right? Forcing them to resist purchases. Right? We've talked about the kind of general vibe that we've all got when a market's down. So it's not surprising that many of our customers are resisting purchases. And that can freak us out. That can cause us to cut back, right? But the reality is it can be challenging to boost revenue when your customers are tight on cash. And that can get folks freaked out, right? Think about contribution margin. Think about your executives and how they talk about things like that with the organization. Or if you are an executive, think about that being a priority on your plate. Yeah. So what about the business communications? How does that actually fit into this? Strengthening your business communications and messaging is more important than ever when the market is down. Why? Well, there's not lots of money flying around out there. Who is going to stand out? Are you going to stand out? Is your company going to stand out? Are you going to fall into the background noise? A background noise which is also amplified by the fear of the uncertainty and the doubt that exists because of the downturn. Now, what about your competition? Are they standing out? All things being equal, you've got a great product or service, they've got a great product or service. Azure and AWS comes to mind, right? Who is standing out? Which brand is standing out? If you've got, if all things that other things are equal, the one who stands out wins. A clear brand message ensures that your story stands out from the crowd, and it convinces your diligent target audience to spend money on your products and services. And I say diligent for a good reason. Market's down, we're extra specially careful about where we make those investments, right? But we still can make investments. And why would we want to do that? Well, we're going to get to that in just a second. A word to the wise. Your story is necessarily about you. The stories you tell aren't necessarily about you. Now, it can be, and we talk about that a lot at Go Narrative, how you want to be very careful about how you approach that. But it isn't necessarily about you. And what I'm talking about here is when you choose to tell stories, are you choosing to tell stories that move the needle in the market? And that needle moving is challenged when the market is down. It gets better though. Any investment in your storytelling can improve your brand image. It can help you be a trusted source. And at times like these, when we're learning to live again and learning to budget again, turning your company into a trusted source of information can put you above the competition and stand out from the crowd. Harvard Business Review talks about investing in things like studying success cases, or as we like to say, case stories. They also talk about investing in your people, training. The reality is that it doesn't matter how great your product or your service or your customer support is, if people are not telling great stories about your company. It's a classic if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it scenario, right? Demonstrating purpose is one of the best ways to get people to tell stories about your company. Guess what? There's an analysis from communications firm Porter Novelli, and they showed that 78% of consumers are more likely to remember purpose-driven companies. And of course, as we said, the best way to communicate purpose is through stories, especially if you've invested in a brand narrative or a strategic narrative where you've ensured that the purpose of your organization is codified so that it can feed into everything that you do, all of your communications, all of your training, and everything from your mission to your vision and everything in between. There's a bonus to such investments, of course. They will pay off not just now, giving you that edge, but also in the long run. They're going to help you become more memorable. And if you're investing now and your competition isn't, when the market gets good again and things are firing on all cylinders again, you'll already be down the road. Okay? They've got to start their engines and start catching up. And if you have a story with purpose, you have a strategic narrative, you're going to be able to inspire your audience. When you inspire your audience, you increase your likability. And guess what? That's right. Even in B2B, it's still human to human. And we humans like to do business with companies and peoples that we like. So not only are you getting to a place where you're standing out above the competition, you're also doing that in a way that's going to feed into your likability and your company's likability. As for investing in your people, are they currently compelling storytellers? Could that saw be sharpened a little bit? Your employees, and not just those in PR and marketing, do the heavy lifting for your reputation in all their interactions. Are they raving fans of your brand? Do they say the same thing? Are they on the same page with what you want them to be saying? Or are you leaving that up to the gods? Are you rolling the dice and hoping that the formal direction structure that you've provided out to the organization and the mandates and the product information is enough to get everybody on the same page in a way that is going to inspire your customers and is going to increase your likability and put you head and shoulders above your competition? Are they engaging? Are they promoting your brand in the way that you want? It's worth pausing and digging into that. You having control over what your employees say or do. I'm not talking about control in the traditional hierarchical structure kind of way. I'm talking about control in the you've made the effort to create an inspiring message that spreads. Stories are the original viral marketing. It's one of the reasons stories and storytelling exists. Stories help us understand the world. They help us put ourselves in that world, and they help us communicate about that world. And when we tell stories about our world, just like the gossip effect, people can't help but sharing them. And if you're not trying to control that by investing in that and creating that compelling story, you're giving up that control and your dollars. And if you don't shape what your employees are saying and how they're saying it, hey, I don't care what you say or how you say it. Go ahead, have it fun. Have fun with it. You're leaving it up to them, and they might not do the best job of it. In Go Narrative, we like to get our clients, teams in a room, do some workshopping or even in our trainings, and present them with a series of business challenges that need to be addressed. And through that, develop the story that you can tell for each, all informed by the big story of your brand, your strategic narrative. You do have a strategic narrative, don't you? No? Okay, well, that's definitely an area that I would encourage you to invest in. And of course, we can help with that. But even if you don't seek our help, make sure you're figuring out what that big story is. There are some other areas that are worth investing in and tackling at this time. And these are great scenarios to approach in that workshopping and to come up with a story. So you've got your strategic narrative, and then you look at topics like raising funding, influencing local government and politicians, building your brand reputation, right? Improving your brand image, or even the classic, right? Conversions, converting those visitors into leads, getting your team in a room, presenting them with these challenges, taking the strategic narrative and figuring out the stories that you can tell that align to that strategic narrative and are 100% focused on those practical business objectives. The great way to do that is to do role-playing exercises, right? Develop the hypothetical customer situation, practice telling a specific relatable story that aligns with your strategic narrative. There are two great ways to do this. I mentioned workshops, I mentioned training. Workshops for your leadership team, for the heads of department, the heads of marketing, PR, product, sales, you name it. And your employees writ large, the training, the workshopping, making sure that you're getting your leadership team and therefore your organizations aligned on what those stories are. And then the training that comes out of the back of that. The training that isn't just about how to tell a story, not some kind of Hollywood hero's journey stuff, right? But how to tell business stories that will drive action in your business, whether that's those conversions or it's something else. And then because you've done that workshopping and you've done those scenarios with the leadership team, you can then use those scenarios within the training itself and make it really, really practical for your organization. And when you do that, not only do you create that alignment at a leadership level, you create that alignment across the whole organization. And it's less of a hierarchical order than a horizontal order, because everybody is committed to the same big story. Everybody is impassioned, excited to tell the story, and everybody's had the practice doing so. I mentioned case stories. You have strong case studies, don't you? If not, that's another really valuable investment to explore right now. With a strong understanding of how to tell relevant stories, your team can effectively connect and resonate with your audience, right? Don't leave your employees hanging. Craft that strategic narrative. Capture and tell customer stories and case studies. Train your team, and you will be well on your way to masterfully out communicating your competition. Remember, without a clear story about your brand, you leave the storytelling up to others. You roll the dice. So don't be afraid to invest in your story, even if the market has you scared. And there's a lot of fear right now. Are we going to head into a recession? It's a totally natural feeling that you're experiencing. Are you scared? Maybe you are. How are you approaching your story right now? Are you running into challenges? Have you done any of this stuff and have run into roadblocks? Reach out and let us know. We can see if we can help you remove some of those roadblocks or even just offer that reflection. You can find a way to connect with us at gonarrative.com with a complimentary consultation, and we can connect and love to hear about how you're approaching these things and where you're running into those challenges, and see if we can help you remove those roadblocks and give you that extra bump in this market that can benefit you and your company, not just in the immediate short term, but make sure your engine is firing on all cylinders and you're off down that road when the market recovers and you're even better positioned to capitalize on things as they get better. So thank you so much for tuning in today or watching this recording. We make sure we put these up on the blog, so you've got even more detail down below that you can dig into, things like that Harvard Business Review and that study. We point to both of those hyperlinks within the blog. Thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to hear how you're doing your storytelling right now and how you're approaching your storytelling in this down market. So until next time, thank you for stopping by.